Looking to get into the Digimon card game? Well, I got you the perfect starter deck guide right here. You guys love the one that I did from last year, and here is the most updated version as we get to talk about a couple of new starter decks that also came out since then. Starting with one of the newer decks from last year, we got the ST15 Dragon of Courage. It is a Agumon and Wargreymon fan favorite base deck, and it is also focusing on the colors of black. Our favorite protagonist received an Ace card, which is one of the very first to be ever introduced in the game. The Ace mechanic is game changing, but is tagged along with the traditional de-digivolving and blocking, which formulates a control playstyle. You can even force your opponent's Digimon to attack so that you can synergize with the Ace mechanic to blast Digivolve and counter them. There's a couple of cards in this deck that can help you build up towards to supporting the red-based version of Wargreymon or branching off into black Wargreymon, giving you various options. And this is all thanks to the alternative Digivolution conditions with the black box text, which lets you ignore the color requirements usually. Most useful cards from this deck include the Agumon, Greymon, Metal Greymon, and Wargreymon Ace, of course, as well as Typhoon, which is the main tamer. Aside from being played within its own Greymon tribal archetype, we've seen some of these cards being utilized in other decks such as the Agumon for Numemon, we also got the Metal Greymon for Machinedramon, and as well as Taikamiya for Magnamon. After all, both Agumon and Greymon are poster characters of the Digimon franchise, where you guys can expect to receive even more additional support down the road to upgrade this particular deck if you have it. Following through with ST16 Wolf of Friendship, it is a Gabumon and Gurumon base deck, which is the other main character and partner alongside of Agumon and Greymon. It also includes Metal Gurumon as a Ace card, which came out together, and this one can gain you memory and delete your opponent's Digimon, providing a lot of great utilities for offensive and defensive playstyles. Some would even argue it being one of the best Ace cards because of gaining the memory during your opponent's turn, essentially can pass it back to yours, ending theirs after the attack. Since it is a purple based deck, it's going to provide you a lot of draw and trash power to ensure the consistency throughout as you climb through your stack. It can also branch off to support the blue version of the Gabumon and Gurumon deck from the alternative Digivolution requirements. Pairing those cards alongside with the Gabumon and Gurumon X from EX5, where they're both blue and purple, creates a very strong base engine that supports many other purple decks such as Beelzemon and Leviamon X. Since it is a main character just like Wargreymon as well, we can always expect for it to receive additional support to upgrade this archetype and deck. Oh yes, also make sure to join the AVAULT Club if you want to see additional deck lists and exclusive content with gameplay on the channel as well, and I greatly appreciate the support. Next up, we got ST17 Double Typhoon, which is a advanced deck set. Advanced deck sets are usually designed for competitive play when you purchase it straight out of the box. I personally always recommend getting 2 copies to ensure that you can get play sets of the entire card for convenience, but you can also just get 1 copy and fill in the rest with singles to complete your play set, just for a more budget-friendly alternative. And of course, if I have to personally rank any of these decks that we talk about in this video, I personally would say this is the #1 best deck of the year. And I am about to tell you exactly why. The characters include Terriermon and Lopmon with a green base, and it comes with a lot of tools such as Alliance for extra DP and attacking, DP reduction and de-digivolving for removal, and most importantly, it comes with the Mega Gargomon Ace card, which does it all. Arguably, also one of the best Ace cards ever to be made so far. First, it can Digivolve on top of any Rapidmon regardless of its level. It has Reboot, Blocker, and it can suspend down your opponent's Digimon and Tamers and prevent them from unsuspending and Digivolving for an entire turn. You can also further enhance this deck with Rapidmon X from BT16 Beginning Observer, and that card alone makes it incredibly powerful and competitively viable too. Or one of the best things with these advanced deck sets is that you can go with a completely different route, building a Cherubimon focused deck instead. And that archetype alone also has a lot of extra power-ups from BT16 and EX6. Overall, I just think this deck is super worth getting, especially if you're trying to get into the game. As we move on into ST18 and ST19, we got some really exciting stuff to talk about. Both these decks are going to highlight the Digimon Liberator webcomic series, which is one of the hottest topics of this year. ST18 Guardian Vortex features Terriermon, which is a green-based deck, and Zephygamon is the final form of the Terriermon line. It brings in an entire entirely new mechanic called Vortex, which lets you attack your opponent's Digimon at the end of the turn, even if your Digimon was played during that turn. There's a lot of effects that emphasize on suspending down your opponent's Digimon, which is what green does best, and also unsuspending yourself while you attack into your opponent's Digimon. So far, this deck feels very similar to the playstyle of Angoramon as well. ST19 Fable Waltz features Shumon and Syndromon as the final boss Digimon with a yellow base. The goal is to try to bring out as many tokens as possible, and then you utilize them as resources to synergize with Overclock, which is also a new keyword. The Digimon with Overclock lets you attack at the end of the turn without suspending it, simply just by deleting one of your own tokens. One of the big key points for both these decks is that they're also bringing in reprints of training cards that are really important staples for the game, making it a fantastic set for new players. You can also further upgrade both these decks with EX7, which is the extra booster dedicated for Digimon Liberator. And if you guys want to see more videos with in-depth guides on how to play them and build those decks, make sure to subscribe and turn on that notification bell to stay tuned. We covered all the new decks so far, but there's still a couple of other older decks that I definitely recommend getting just because of how good they still are. And the first one is the best deck from last year, as it makes a return with ST14, the Beelzemon Advanced deck set. If you're a Beelzemon lover, a lot of the cards from that deck is still very usable, especially you can just easily power it up with the BT12 X cards. The playstyle of the deck has a self-milling strategy which helps you gain a lot of advantages throughout the course of the game, which can provide you an explosive game-winning turn. You can even splash in the EX6 Beelzemon to provide an additional dynamic when it comes to the top end plays. Despite the deck has seen less play over the course of the year, I believe there are players out there who are cooking up various methods to match the meta. And if you feel that person is you, then make sure to pick it up, because I believe you can still top with this deck. Speaking of fan favorites, I know Imperialmon is certainly one of them as well. With lots of different releases and additions for the archetype over time, BT16 brings the deck back up to speed in the meta. As a matter of fact, it is on its way to becoming one of the best decks all over again ever since BT8. Although building this deck might be a little bit tricky because there's a lot of cards that you need to gather from various different sets. However, ST9 still contains some of them that are fairly important. Some of them include Beelzemon, Dragon Mode, Stingmon, and Megadeth. It is debatable whether you should get the starter deck just for the sake of those couple key cards, or otherwise the better option which is to go for singles instead. I personally would always recommend getting the full deck anyways if you can find a good deal or for the sake of convenience. The same goes for Mastermon, which was also released exactly the same time as the Imperial starter deck. BT11 Dimensional Phase has a couple of key cards that you want to include, such as Mirai, which is the main tamer of the archetype. EX6 Infernal Ascension also brings in a ton of support such as Salamon, Gatomon, Angelmon, Lady Devimon, and Mastermon Ace. With that in mind, there are still a couple of very good cards from the Mastermon starter deck, such as the Gatomon that searches, Chaos Degradation as the main removal tool, and Mastermon itself. And just like my recommendation for the Imperial starter deck, you can either buy the entire deck for yourself or just go for singles if you're able to find them. However, Mastermon isn't the only archetype that gets boosted from EX6, because there's also Ragnarlordmon. The Ragnarlordmon starter deck includes two lines of Digimon with Durandamon as red and Brylujamon for black, and eventually you would DNA both of them to get out your level 7 Ragnarlord. The truth is, the archetype core mainly comes from EX6, and you only really need to splash in Ludamon, Tealudamon, and Brylujamon that are from the starter deck. And it might just make more sense to get singles for it instead. But if you are a Ragnarlord enthusiast, you might find the other cards useful just to switch up different playstyles from the starter deck. Aside from that, there is also the Chikurimon and the Davis Memory Tamer from BT3, which I think are really good staples to generally have as well. Check out this video right now to learn which deck style is the best for you. Let me know in the comments on which starter deck is your favorite. As always, thank you so much for watching. You guys have a great day, great night, wherever you are. See you in the next video, and this is AVAULT signing out.